like to call the July 1st meeting of Benton Harbor City Commission to order. City clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Adams,
Present. Present.
Commissioner Archibald, Commissioner Bell, Commissioner Henry, Commissioner Hensel,
Present.
Commissioner Marshall, Manager Little, Mayor Mohammed, Chairman Reed.
Present.
You have a quorum.
I get a motion for approval of the agenda. Motion to approve with Commissioner Adams. Support? Support. By Commissioner Bell. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bell, Commissioner Henry, Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Manager Little, Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, I'm looking for approval of the minutes. Are there any additions, changes? Hearing none, I get a motion for the approval. Motion. Made by Commissioner Adams, supported by Commissioner Bell. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Henry, Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Manager Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, I would like to open the meeting up for public comments. Comments in general. We're going to have a public hearing later. If there are questions concerning the upcoming zoning ordinance, I appreciate if you save those questions for that public hearing. But otherwise, are there any others? Comments at this time? Okay, I would like to close this segment of the meeting for public comments. At this time, I'd like to move to agenda item number 6, a public hearing. The public hearing is for the updated zoning ordinance and map. Before we get into opening up that, I would like to have our consultant, Mr. Brad Mishner of McKenna, to give us a brief overview of what it is that we intend to accomplish today at this open meeting, public meeting, rather.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman Reed. Thank you, members of the Planning Commission. Again, for the public, my name is Brad Meisner, and I'm a consultant with McKenna Associates that's been helping the city with the update of the zoning ordinance and the zoning map. And so I have a quick presentation for you today. Thank you. There we go. Get me on record. Okay, so here we are today with agenda item 6, which is actually your public hearing for a recommendation on the adoption of the zoning ordinance and zoning map. It's been a process here. We've been working together for a number of months now on working to write a new comprehensive zoning ordinance and update your zoning map to really aspire to the principles and goals that you have in your best Benton Harbor community plan. So it's been a very rewarding experience, and I want to say thank you very much for having the chance to work with the community and you all on this project. As you know, and you've heard from me before, a number of the key issues in the writing of the zoning ordinance was to promote a mix of uses throughout the community, specifically to promote a variety of housing types throughout the community, and implement best zoning practices. We've been working to preserve waterfront areas, respect areas for open space and recreation, to make sure that the ordinance itself is clear, is updated with rich graphics, that the processes are easy to understand, and that you have new procedures and new definitions throughout the document itself. We have finally prepared a full draft of the updated ordinance, and it's been reviewed and prepared. The ordinance reinforces the recommendations and objectives of the Best Benton Harbor Plan. It's been updated graphically with updated use tables and classifications. It encourages a right of housing and includes design standards for new housing types, promotes neighborhood commercial areas and a robust downtown, and Again, we're hoping that it's easy to use, it's newly formatted with clear administrative procedures. We've been working quite a bit, so this is just a sampling of some of the meetings that we've had. The PC subcommittee, we were meeting back in March to discuss the draft ordinance and map. We prepared a number of memos and policy documents to talk about issues and have robust discussions. We've prepared a number of zoning map updates. That was back in April. In late April, the PC subcommittee met again on April 24th to review an updated draft and map. We met then again in late May and did a final review and looked at the map. On June 2nd, we prepared the public hearing notice for the public hearing here today. Final draft ordinance and map was given to the city on June 4th. The public hearing was published. Both the zoning ordinance and the map have been put onto the city's website for public review. And here we are today. The public hearing notice was published and put on the website for today's public hearing. There have been a number of updated ordinance revisions, new definitions provided to address alternative housing construction types, alternative energy, greenhouses, nurseries. We've included design standards for housing and mixed-use buildings. There have been a discussion of reduced setbacks for smaller lots to encourage housing, and we've talked about flexible parking options as well. In terms of the zoning map has been fully overhauled. A full draft of the zoning map has been prepared, and it creates zoning districts citywide, identifies areas for residential, commercial, industrial, mixed use, recreation, increased housing opportunities, local serving commercial areas and nodes right near residential neighborhoods, and preservation of waterfront areas. And now it's really time to start talking about implementation of that zoning ordinance, should the Planning Commission choose to recommend to the City Commission adoption of this ordinance. In our view, the ordinance that's been written is aligned to reinforce your master plan. It's compliant with the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. It establishes consistency of your master plan and your zoning ordinance, so now that when you make land use decisions, you're really working towards the goals for the community in the future. It promotes housing and jobs, has been a comprehensive update. And, I want to make this point, and I've said it before, I think we all know it's a fluid document. It's a document that you'll need to continually look at and update as projects come before you. If there's any question or interpretation on anything, please never hesitate to reach out to us. We absolutely are here as a resource to continue helping the community on this ordinance. For next steps, today, it really is your public hearing and a chance to hear feedback from you all and then also from the public. Prepare the final zoning ordinance and map for City Commission, should there be a recommendation to City Commission. And then if that is the case, what our firm would do is then prepare both the final version of the ordinance with the cover. We'd send you PDF versions. We'd send you the updated zoning map. We'd have that printed out on a board for display. We'd have paper copies sent to you as well as PDF versions of all the final products of everything that we've done here. And so with that, I think we're at the public hearing part.
Yes, sir.
We have not started the public hearing.
Okay. I just heard him say.
Okay. At this time, I would like to open the meeting. At this time, I would like to open the meeting for our public hearing. So if we can start out with the commissioners, do you have questions or something you'd like to state? This is the time to do it.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. My first question would be, if you could, can we pull up the map? I'm curious about an area of some topics that we've discussed as it relates to rezoning of commercial property that's in a residential area and the type of housing that I would just like to see the area of where the old Masonic, not Masonic, but the old temple was torn down. It was a Jewish congregation on the corner of Lake and Colfax. I can't see it on this, but it was deemed as commercial, and I'm thinking that this is a perfect time to take a look at something like that with the hopes that rezoning can take place. Because if we are looking at rebuilding neighborhoods with mixed use, whether it be homes, small mom-pop shops, we don't definitely need semi-trucks just parked.
Could you give us the streets,
Colfax and Lake.
Colfax and Lake?
What, right now, what is it zoned as, is what I'd like to know. Because it hasn't been a commercial use for quite some time, many, many years. I've been there for, what, 25, 26 years now.
Multi-unit residential.
Yeah, right up there from Hosts Terrace.
Where's
Where's Lake
across from
Street?
Lake?
Lake
Oh,
in
here we go. Yeah,
Ohio.
Here.
Where?
It's in this area here. Here's Colfax. And can you see my cursor? Yeah.
Where's your cursor?
Here you go. Can you see it
Okay,
underneath the
okay,
reverse?
that's Charmin.
Right out, sir.
That's on the other side of Colfax. Go over
There you go.
towards, oh gosh, Ohio and Lake. Okay, that's it right there, right
Right
there,
here.
right there. That big yellow.
This piece
That
here?
and that other yellow that follows that. All of that,
Going down to,
yeah, that's going all the way down to Britain. Those are homes. Why is that zoned?
So that is now on this map, the proposal is for it to be multi-unit residential. Any home that's
Okay.
there would remain legal.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But we're rezoning it, period.
Yes,
Okay. I was hoping so.
yes.
Okay, so I guess I have a question, because we discussed this matter as well, about small lots and building smaller homes on them. The probability of, okay, say I got 3 lots, and I want to do a small development on all 3 because of the way they're sit. Would a person have to actually rezone and add those properties together for tax purposes, or would they remain separate lots?
What I would like to do
the zone.
is to show us how to utilize the zoning
Yes.
Right.
process and how that works. And that would answer just about all the
Okay.
questions that you generated.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe I would start off with on page 3, of how to use the code.
3.
Well, that's the page
Oh, okay. I just read those.
And the reason I want to suggest this is that the majority of the questions that you're going to ask is the process of how you go about doing it. And the zoning ordinance shows you how to do that.
Okay, so one last question. And I think this came up when this project, Project T, first started. It's a project right now. Will we, the city elected officials, be able to zone it as its own district? Or is it this developer that's actually zoning? I'm on the right road with that question.
Project T was actually rezoned to a plan unit development to give them the opportunity to present a design of what mix they would put in it and so forth. And the city had the opportunity to approve or disapprove whatever they
Okay,
proposed.
so it's like, remember when it first started and I asked you, Mr. Little, through the chair, if in fact it's a project of a development now and it's just called Project T, if in fact we could use it and name it district as the Mercy District? Is that, am I on the right road with that question?
That's actually going to be up to the property owners, since the
That's
city
what
is
I-
transferring it to them.
Project T.
Yeah.
If you could just walk us through how to utilize the code.
Sure, absolutely, my pleasure. So, depending on any kind of inquiry that you get that comes to City Hall, whether it could be, a new business owner that's, inquiring about how to open a brand-new business in town, where to locate a business. It could be a question like the commissioner had. Maybe someone has acquired one or two or three properties and wants to build something brand new. One of the things that's going to be paramount, and again, this will be a user guide that we will print out separately so that you don't necessarily have to go directly to the code. It will live in the code, but we'll also provide the city with a handout and a user guide as well that you could put onto the website just separate and apart from the ordinance. This is a good place to start with any kind of business or project. The first thing you want to do is identify the property that you're working with, and then when you know what that property is, by looking at the zoning ordinance, by looking at the zoning map, you're going to figure out where the parcel is located and then what the corresponding zoning district name is, okay? So for instance, and this is just hypothetical, imagine I had a property at the corner of Lake and Colfax, right here, and something was going to be developed there, or a brand-new business was going to go there, or something of that nature, or even, one of the commercial districts, which are in sort of the red, the local commercial. As soon as you know where the property is located, you find it on the map, you find out what the zoning district is, then you go directly to the zoning ordinance, and that's what it's talking about in step 3. You go to the permitted land use tables for the details on your uses of what's allowed in that, for that property. And you'll find out if you're trying to open up a retail business, whether that's allowed. If you're trying to open up a restaurant, whether that's allowed. If it's a residential property, that's going to tell you how many homes you could build on that lot. And also, it's going to tell you the setbacks, the parking requirements, the landscaping. So imagine you file an application, that's going to be the first place where you're going to have an understanding of how you would design a piece of property to develop a property.
So, Chairman
Could
Reed,
you go on to show them how to utilize the use table?
Yes, yes.
This will help me
Okay.
develop the question that I see
but
trying
he actually just touched base on something that a couple had a problem with, and that fixes that problem with setback and all of that.
Good.
Well, we're going to show you the actual graphics so that you know.
One of the things I'll note that's very handy with your new ordinance is now I've identified a piece of property, I know what the zoning district is, and I want to go to the use table. If you're in the table of contents, you'll see Article 1 is general provisions, Article 2 is your zoning districts, Article 3 is the use standards. That's where I want to find out where things are permissible. This is hyperlinked directly there. So I can hit back in, I'll just do that one more time, back in the table of contents, you're able to navigate directly to sections of the code. So if I'm in the table of contents, and I want to know something about parking standards, I would go to off-street parking and loading. It would take me directly to the code. So that's just a handy way to be able to navigate without having to scroll through the entire code. So let's go to the use standards. Table of permitted uses. And this is something we all worked on very in depth. In this table, this is what we call the principal permitted use table. All of the zoning districts are at the top. All the types of uses are down the left-hand side. So if I've identified a property that's in the multifamily, residential multi-unit, and I wanted to build a duplex, I would go to RM, which is the multi, and find out, oh, 2-unit dwelling units are permitted by right, green. You can see it right there, that P. Down at the tail end of this table is this code that tells you P equals a use is permitted by right. With an asterisk, it's permitted as an accessory use. If it's an S, it's a special use permit. So those are the types of permits that often come before the planning commission for consideration. But uses that are allowed by right are allowed by right. So that's just a quick overview of how to use the table. And again, we will have a step-by-step guide that's further printed out that will really help the public in going through that process. And so throughout the use categories, you'll see it starts with household living, housing types, gets into more of your educational and governmental facilities, open space, religious institutions, and then it starts to get into more commercial types of uses, where offices can be located, where retail types of businesses can be located, restaurants, athletic clubs, home occupations, where a laundromat can be located, retail sales and services, auto repair, vehicle sales, and it goes through, all the way through industrial uses. And then you can see which districts each of those uses are permitted either by right or through special use permit by looking at this table. Yep, sure. Section 2.5, dimensional standards. So similarly to the permitted use table, now when you're trying to determine how you would look at a property to determine setbacks, parking, and other criteria for how large a building can be, bulk standards, you'd go to section 2.5, which is entitled dimensional standards. And what you'll find below is a schedule of regulations. And this tells you what the minimum lot size should be for each piece of land, what the minimum lot width should be, and then more importantly is all of the setbacks that would be required for new construction or additions to properties. So in the same way, you look at the top to determine what the zoning district is, and then below is all the corresponding standards that relate to that piece of property. So it's going to tell you what the front, side, and rear setbacks are, what the maximum height of a structure can be. It'll tell you what your lot coverage can be, floor area ratio. In many districts, that's been, is very flexible. And that was an idea that was born out of the encouragement of a variety of housing types to allow for that to occur.
And could you scroll down so they could see some actual sites, the houses, where the graphics will just
Yep,
show exactly what we're talking about?
exactly.
I'm on page 24 of the 162 pages, which would be page 19 of the documents themselves.
Yep.
This will give you some ideas about when we start talking about what can you build on your lot and where and what you can put on that lot adjacent to your properties.
Yes.
Now, there could be one lot or there could be several lots together. So most of the information that you're getting now is already on the website. So you haven't had to spend any money yet. You can
Right, right.
see exactly where it is or what it is that you want to do. And once you decide on exactly what you want to do, in some instances, now you will ask for a pre-conference with the city of building officials and zoning officials to make sure that what you see is going to meet your needs.
And that's my question. All of this updated information will be on the
All of this updated information will be on the city's website, to where if they know that they have followed everything that we are putting together that's approved by the commission, they should have no problem. Following-
Be careful how I say no problems.
I mean, well,
Yeah.
I mean, following what we, as a planning and elected officials, have put together and approved. If a
Yes.
developer is following all that, then, and they sit with code enforcement, then,
Yes.
yeah.
One of the things that we are trying to do, and we haven't completed it yet, is to come up with a series of pre-approved
Okay.
sites and properties. This will help to encourage development without incurring upfront costs
Okay.
before you get to the site plan approval.
Right.
Right.
So even with that, if they followed everything that they've, put together as a development, and they want to change a thing, that's when they really need to get with code enforcement to see if it's regulated and can be done by the zoning rules and regulations.
The ordinance also will show you the officials that you need to deal with and what their powers are. That's more or less in the articles later on in the ordinance.
Sure. But back to the question of housing types. So as I was saying earlier, the ordinance does promote a variety of different types of housing types. And so what's been formulated for the ordinance is a range of different types of housing with graphics to kind of give a visual presentation of what would be more desirable in terms of form and function and architecture, along with design standards. So if someone was going to try to build like a smaller type of apartment building, 5 to 12 units, then this is sort of the visual that we've generated along with the design standards below that. So it's going to talk about facades and having windows and door openings to be recessed, cornice features, molding on the building, patterns of solids and voids, try to make sure that it's just not long expanses of blank walls. So each housing type, and then you're going to look at building size, a whole variety of standards around what constitutes, appropriate and good design, materials to be used.
Could you
So we-
scroll down? Yeah, I would wanted you to show the graphics.
Right. So this is a bungalow courtyard building type where you may have, 3, 4, 5 units arranged around a courtyard. Again,
You say units, okay, so is one of those right there is just one unit?
This is-
Several units within a unit,
in this case right here, each one of these is a smaller home,
okay.
all arranged on the same parcel. And so,
Could you show how large that parcel would need to be for that?
yeah, so this, we do have some standards on that. For a parcel like this, you're probably looking at something around at least 50 to 75 feet in width, and then probably at least 100 to 150 feet in depth. And so this kind of shows you an arrangement. This talks about the spacing, the size of the units. So that's the example for like a courtyard development. If someone was doing just sort of a carriage house, which is sort of a secondary house on a lot, again, standards, the metrics for how large it could be, materials. So each of these is the same. If someone was doing a duplex, how that might be arranged. And again, the design standards, the numerical parameters, and then the materials. If someone's doing a side-by-side duplex development, how that might be situated on a lot. Your standards and materials. And then a triplex, that could be, 3 units inside of one building that might fit inside of a historically single-family home neighborhood. It might look just like a single unit, but there's actually 3 apartments inside that one building, but designed in a way to really fit into the neighborhood. And then, this is a sample of like a 4-plex building. So all of these have been developed. And then, of course, if there were a lot where some of these standards don't quite work, you do have, there's opportunities for variations if needed throughout the code. So that's a process that's spelled out within the ordinance as well.
Variation, meaning,
So in other words, if there was some circumstance where some of the setbacks or some of the dimensional standards cannot be met, an applicant could make a request to get a variance from that.
That was a question I asked earlier, I just didn't put it there.
Could you show, yeah, I was going to ask you if you could show some more examples.
Yep.
So they can get an idea about what can be built on the different size lots.
Yeah.
You notice that you have two streets facing on the corner lot, corner building there. You notice in the back that they have a garage. If there's an alley back there, the garage can be set within a certain distance from the alley.
Yeah.
But if there's no alley and it's a private property, then you still need to know what your boundaries are. and
That's
setback.
correct, yeah, and that's a
And
good,
This will tell you all of that, and you can eliminate all types of problems and issues by understanding what setbacks are.
Okay, so Chairman Reed, a setback like that is only if a developer chooses to separate their garage from the home, right? I mean, what does that look like? Or what does the zoning look like for attachment? I don't want to have to walk out to the garage. I want it attached to the home.
When you come up with your design, what it is you desire, then you can begin to answer some of those questions based upon your lot and so forth. But these are the examples of what the person can do without incurring any debt up front by understanding how to utilize the zoning ordinance. So that's what we wanted to do, is to make this user-friendly so that if
And
you can
costs.
avoid all of these issues that you
Yeah.
keep bringing up. We tried to answer them in the way we structured the ordinance, to add more graphics, to make it easier for the layman to understand.
Okay, but my question again, that separation of that garage from the home is called setback. The garage is set back from the house, closer to the alley.
You're
Is it-
looking at your
is that just-
exterior boundaries.
Okay, is that just specific areas that something like that is allowed to, zoned in specific places in the community? Or is that everywhere?
As long as there's a primary structure on that lot with
right. So,
it. And then you have your setbacks to where the house is too.
But I don't want it set, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't want it set back.
so
Is there something already in place for it to be built and attached?
that's going to be dependent on the construction type, right? So if
Oh.
someone's building a brand-new single-family home, let's just say.
Right.
And they have an attached garage that is part of the design, then the setbacks or the entire structure would need to be met. If the garage is being built separate from the home, it's seen as an accessory building and is given a little bit lesser of a setback because it's being separated from the primary structure.
Okay, so I guess I was just thinking that we want to keep it friendly for developers to have everything that they would want, like that answer, to be within the documents that they go online and to find.
And it is there. It is.
Thank you.
I would also say that the setbacks, have to be maintained on the sides, so you're also looking then at what the width of your lot is, your frontage, to see whether or not you can actually accommodate that. And in some cases, because our lots are 60 feet wide and, depending on where you are, you may only be able to accommodate a driveway in that setback area to get the largest house you'd want to put there. So in that case, you'd be looking at trying to locate a garage separately if you're going to do garages. And then take advantage of the fact that you're on an alley, because then you can set your garage that much farther away from your house using more of your property. So there are advantages and trade-offs, things.
And keep in mind, you have existing properties, and then you have properties that you're going to build. Most builders will know how to, they'll know how to put the house on the property with the correct setbacks. And this won't be something that necessarily you will have to, concern yourself with. What we were looking at to make the process simpler was to have pre-approved construction types. And if you have a lot that's a certain size, those are the type of properties that you could build. But they've been pre-approved already. Now, if you want something custom, now I would advise you to get a builder or an architect, someone who could help you with that.
Okay, now you mentioned some of those that are existing right now. And those are the people that I listen to because they've gotten older in their homes and they're off an alley and the garage is separated from the home. And in our conversations, and I thought that we were thinking about those type of buildings up front now, being that the whole area itself, we were looking at becoming like a resort area for retirees because the baby boomers are not booming anymore. And to be walking and all that shoveling, living in a four-seasonal state, I mean, I thought we were taking all of that type of stuff into consideration to where it's easier living and less work on the body. Because things are just not like they used to be. And I just thought that we were thinking about those type of things up front now in the midst of all of this, so.
I'll just mention, if I might, as an aside, it's not part of the zoning thing, but one of the reasons that the city is assembling as many properties as it can now is so that among the options would be to acquire more than one lot if somebody needed to do so because of a particular plan or design or whatever they want to do.
That makes sense.
Keep in mind that the city gets a large portion of its income from property taxes.
Yes.
So we were looking at ways we could increase the density, that is, the number of people on a given size property. And these are some of the issues that we were hoping that we would be able to resolve up front before builders or interested people come in and start looking at places to develop. Also, multi-unit apartment buildings and complexes, we would have to start talking about what is an asset and what is a liability. Many people don't realize that single-family homes are actually liabilities. In other words, it takes money out of your pocket to maintain a residence, whereas with an income property, and that's exactly what it is, it produces income, so it's an asset. So what is the acquisition cost for a single-family home as opposed to the acquisition cost for a multifamily home in which you have tenants to pay the bills as opposed to the resident with a mortgage? So these are all different type of things we got to look at. And this is why we want to make this as simple as possible to encourage entrepreneurship, ownership of property by the people who already live here. So these are a lot of the issues, questions that you're asking are all valid, and we appreciate that. However, the graphics, designs, the way we put this together would assist people who are in doubt about whether or not they can qualify for some of the things that, opportunities that are going to present themselves when we begin to get into this.
Okay, so,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to say that in our meetings, we definitely did consider senior citizens. As part of the updated ordinance, we focused on ensuring that housing was safe, accessible, and sustainable year-round. Also, with the zoning and mixed use, we wanted to make sure that there was some walkability within the neighborhoods for the senior citizens. So, different amenities, harsh winters. Also, we looked at a range of housing types. So if that means that there are three best friends who maybe want to live together in mixed use, any type of senior living communities, accessory dwelling units, also, like I said, the multifamily housing mix. And we also know that transportation and weather can be a factor here in Michigan. So we have better sidewalks as far as the setbacks are concerned. And that is connected with the transit options as that grows as well. So we definitely are thinking about the older citizens and the elements that come with all four seasons in the master plan.
May I ask this question?
Yes, you.
When it comes to structures like that, is it the developer or is it the city within its zoning that says that my yard, I don't want to have to deal with cutting grass. I want it to be concrete. I want to just put flower pots or something out. I mean, is that a part of zoning? So I can't actually pour concrete just over my front yard if I want to, on my property?
Correct. So there's an entire section within the zoning ordinance that addresses the required landscaping that's required.
Okay. Wow. I'm learning a lot. Okay.
Do we have anybody in the audience that had questions? Okay. I believe you covered most of the basic issues that the average person would encounter. Brad, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Just, again, I think one of the most important things is for any prospective developer or business owner to do their due diligence, to use the document, to try to get in touch with folks from City Hall. Our firm is always available to answer questions as they come along, as you start to begin using the document. It's very comprehensive. It has all your development standards, and it has all the processes. So again, we were talking about special use permits before. So the process of if you're opening a business that needs a special use permit, which needs approval from the Planning Commission, the entire process, what you need to submit, the public hearing process is all spelled out within the ordinance as well. So hopefully that should be clear for prospective business owners and developers.
Mr. Chairman, if I might like to ask Brad to speak to the benefits within the restructuring of the ordinance for John Q. Citizen who doesn't have a developer as such, and just wants to build a house. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the most important things is that oftentimes many people don't interact with City Hall all that often, except for when they're trying to put on an addition to their home or put in new windows. And so I think that any homeowner should be able to pick up this document, locate their property, find out what zoning district they're in, and then navigate to the rules and regulations. And I think by doing a little bit of that homework themselves, by looking at the ordinance that will be fully online, that's going to go a long way in helping to lead up to building permits that would be necessary. So yeah, I think this document is going to be very useful for homeowners that are looking to make changes to their property.
Even to the simple fact of replacing windows?
We were looking at roofs, water heaters, furnaces, windows. You required to have a permit for those?
For those items that you just mentioned? Okay, so I didn't know that something like that was in our peripheral.
It's done for assessment purposes.
Okay.
It's going to improve the property.
Okay, so are we talking
Property's
about
gonna have more
energy efficient?
value.
Energy efficiency moving forward? Okay.
No, we're talking about increasing your property tax based upon its market value. So the assessor wants to know what are you doing? Are you upgrading your properties? Are you keeping them up to date? That's what's going to impact the neighborhood, so to speak.
So we will do some community
outreach to let the community know that you don't start building until you come get a builder's permit.
And that is best practice for sure, because some simple things sometimes do not require building permits, but you want to be clear, and I think we could probably assist with just giving you a list of things that would need a building permit.
I think this ordinance doesn't cover things like construction after the house is built, unless you're talking about major alterations or a change in use. But our friend here who's with us, our staff person, would be glad to talk to anyone about plans for their home and if they're changing windows, what permits they would need. If they're trying to bring their homes up to standards for energy efficiency and sustainability, they might be able to direct people to someone who could help them with that information. In general, the planning issue is to get everything up and running the first time in the right way. And then some of those conditions, like landscaping, are permanent. So you don't build something and then rip out all the landscaping without having to replace it. You need to stick with what the district calls for.
We also encourage that you use licensed contractors for all of your work, and the majority of them actually know what permits are necessary for the work that they're going to perform. There's a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there, but you have to keep in mind an improperly wired house, improperly gas hookups, improper additions can be safety factors. So this is why the permitting process is in place.
And I want to thank you for that, because we've had quite a few fires in the community, and those type of things right there, not properly an electrician doing the work that needed to be done, that have caused the fire and loss of life. So I understand.
Chairman Reed was going to mention too a little earlier about us looking at pre-approved packages for housing, and that's a part of our plan, kind of like the Michigan Municipal League program that does that. Because one of the things that, from the city's point of view, we're hoping to encourage is a lot more individual home building. We recognize that somebody builds a house, it's going to go on the tax rolls fairly quickly, unlike many larger developments where you've got tax and incentive packages that may take it out 15, 20 years before it actually gets full effect on the tax roll and so forth. So we'll be doing all we can to encourage single-family duplexes, triplexes, quads, and so forth.
See, that's my question. When I think about the seniors, and I know that we can't survive without a tax base, and to build new homes and home ownership will add to our tax base for us to be able to provide better services, or some services, throughout the community, fixing the roads and everything else. But where are the jobs? I mean, other than in helping to build, if they're hired. I mean, I'm thinking about the overall picture here of the situation of zoning things to increase a tax base of a community that has a income level of, to my knowledge, under $20,000 for the most part, in being a predominantly black community. So I'm just stating facts. I mean, not everybody has a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 income to be able to afford what we're talking about building, but it's got to be done though. Yeah, so we just. hold elected officials accountable for creating some.
So,
Commissioner
Mr.
Hensel?
Chair, in answer to that question, if you take a look at the zoning map, you'll see that the subcommittee was pretty thoughtful, I think, on the whole, in looking at additional opportunities for job creation in entrepreneurship. Anywhere you see the pink on that map. So we've increased the size of the neighborhood commercial districts, and of course, we've included the various uses that we think will have the least impact on existing residences, and we hope new residents who build homes. But at the same time, we're offering that those areas could be potentially great for people to start new businesses, to get more housing into a different type of housing into a setting, and also increase tax revenue, because in general, commercial properties do pay more in real estate taxes. So we're trying to make those adjustments in order to make the city more amenable to the people who are living in the neighborhoods, so that they don't have to have a car, they don't have to go downtown, they don't have to go somewhere else. We can grow businesses that will provide the services that the neighborhood requires.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hensel, because I grew up in Benton Harbor, and that's exactly, things were in walking distance. And going back to some of the things that used to work, I totally agree with. Thank you.
Commissioner Marshall?
Yes, Mr. Little, for the developers that we're anticipating that's going to come, will they be offered pilots?
Once again, the last part of the question.
Will they be offered pilots?
We find ourselves in a position where we have to compete with other communities that are after the same people. And that often puts us in the position of having to provide tax incentives in concert with what state law allows, pilots, TIF financing for housing, which now is becoming rapidly a prominent part of the housing landscape, and various other incentives and so forth. As a matter of fact, one thing that we did that I'm sure is incorporated somewhere in our package here, about a year ago, we changed the zoning requirement for planned unit developments that previously required that it had to be on a minimum 5.3 acres. We only had one or two sites in the entire city that was available at that size. So we reduced that to 1.6 acres as a minimum requirement to do a planned unit development, with the idea in mind that a developer could take 1 square block, which is probably about that amount, and submit a PUD for it. So we'll be doing whatever we have to do to try to compete and get the quality and quantity of new housing that we want to try to get. But we'll also be pushing as hard as we can individual dwellings that families, and as Chairman was mentioning, duplexes and so forth, where they could have some of the rental units also help pay the cost of it.
I asked the question because in the 90s, we offered pilots because we needed them to help bring the city back or start it on the road to recovery. We're way down the road of recovery now. I question whether there's really a need for a pilot.
And the answer to that is we really are not way down the road. We're not a whole lot farther than we were 20 years ago as far as tax base is concerned. See, that's where our problem is that we've got a lot more going on in terms of structures and facilities and so forth, but not tax yielding facilities.
I guess what I'm saying, there's a desire that outsiders have to come into the city of Benton Harbor and do things because they see the potentials, not what we are, but what we can be. I have no problem with the pilot. I just thought that even if there's going to be a pilot, it should be substantial.
One of the issues that we looked at was that small multifamily houses, if the person can afford the acquisition cost, that is the cost to get it built or to gain title to it, you rent out the other unit and your tenants will pay the bills. But there's one thing that they overlooked and we did not discuss in depth. Where do you get qualified tenants? And that was one of the things that we were looking at. And we began to notice that we had hospitals, you got schools, you got firemen, you got all of these people with good salaries. But a lot of them don't live in the city. So what could we do to encourage them to come back to the city? One of the things we noticed and we discussed briefly, there's a vacant lot next to the high school, for example. There were some houses that could be rehabbed close by. So there's a lot of opportunities entrepreneurial for the small investors. A lot of the people in the city are retirees. They have money, but they're not spending it on housing. But they still have a family that could live in a multifamily, duplex or a triplex or even a fourplex. These are small enough where that the local residents can actually afford if they had rental properties. So that was one of the reasons we were stressing rental properties. You'll get the additional density, higher property taxes, but the buildings would be more affordable. So we're looking at incremental development as opposed to larger projects where the builder wants all of these different incentives to come to build.
I want to thank my colleague here for bringing that up because just yesterday, I'm hoping that we are not going to allow large developments beyond what we're allowing with Project T. We should not, I would really hate if I stay in Benton Harbor to see something like Thurgood Marshall to be built again. I think our children deserve better because management is not, that's not our job though. But pilots, when it comes to large developments like that, I really personally don't want to see any more of that in Benton Harbor. We're just 4 square miles, and we need affordable housing. But to do something smaller like what we've been talking about for a while now that I just heard Chairman Reed mention was something more duplex type of style without cluttering people together. Because our children can't breathe. And we have a problem. And it's my job as as a past elected official and future, or just a community taxpayer, to look after our youth and to make sure that they are in safe, clean spaces.
Okay, we want to stick more or less with our
Yeah, that was
zoning ordinance. Commissioner Hensel.
Just wanted to remind everyone that we're here to review whatever projects come without bias. We do not have a bias. Our bias is what does it say in the ordinance and nothing more. And whoever's hearing this, please know that we take this very seriously. And so does the state of Michigan. So we're speaking through an ordinance, and that's the only thing that we have to say.
I would also like to add that the master plan was created by the citizens.
Yep.
That's their plan. That's why we call it a community plan. We took the master out of it. So the zoning ordinance is how you get to where you want to go. If we don't have any more questions from the audience or the commissioners, I would like to keep us aware of the time. We've had an hour now for the opening, for the public hearing. So at this time, if we don't have any more questions, I would like to close the public hearing and move to make a motion to forward this on to the full city commission.
Make a motion to close the public hearing and move
Support.
process of zoning to the full commission.
If there's no questions, let's see, the motion was made by Commissioner Adams. It was supported by, Commissioner Hensel. Okay. If there's no discussion, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Henry? Commissioner Hensel?
Yes?
Commissioner Marshall? Manager Little?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Commissioner Bell?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, I would like to go to old business. We have none at this time. Monthly absence. Anyone who is not present was not excused. And at this time, if the commissioners have any comments that they would like to make before we adjourn. Commissioner Bell?
I just want to thank McKenna and Brad for your team and your hard work. I know this was not an easy feat, but you've done an amazing job since I have met you, and I really do appreciate everything that you've done for the city. It has been a long 2 years. It's been a long 2 years, and I just didn't want to end it in this way. I really wanted to just appreciate every citizen who came out and the commissioners who hosted, for individuals to come out and voice your thoughtful concerns and your input. We appreciate Alex Little for his leadership, and Chairman Reed, of course, just for guiding us through this. This has been a learning experience for all of us. Me personally, this is the first not community plan that I participated in, and that's actually how I got to this board, because I just became so passionate about what the future looks like for the community. So, yeah, I just want to thank everybody for your voices, for your time and your commitment, and just showing up and participating and speaking into this process. I think we really did make a difference, and I think we really are shaping the Benton Harbor that we all want to see in the future. So just thank you, everyone, for participating in the community plan.
Awesome.
Are there any additional comments? If not,
None other than I concur. Make a motion to adjourn.
And on behalf of the city, I also would like to thank all of you for the time and effort you put into this.
I'd like to say thank you also. Commissioner Adams has made the motion to adjourn. Do we have support? Support by Commissioner Bell. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Commissioner Bell?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry? Commissioner Hensel?
Yes?
Commissioner Marshall? Manager Little? Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Motion carried.